it is easy to be beat down by life. And Seth, you and I know each other not only on podcasts and professionally, but like outside the lines, man. That's something you got to wrestle with periodically throughout your lives and usually each day of your lives. How will I show up in this moment?
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Keynote Curators podcast. I'm Seth Deckman, your Keynote Curator. Our guest today is somebody super, super special that we are privileged to have in our presence. At age 9, John O'Leary was burnt. There was a terrible accident. And he didn't just survive it, he transformed this accident into a life of fulfillment, richness, purpose, and meaning. And if you've ever wondered, out to our audience out there, by the way, welcome back and thanks for subscribing and viewing us. We love having you. You're in for a treat today. If you've ever wondered how resilience is built, not like in theory, but in real life, this episode is for you. John O'Leary, welcome to the podcast.
Seth, you read that introduction exactly like I wrote it. So well done, good and faithful servant.
Hey, I'm just here. It's your world. I'm just living in it. We're going to walk through this thing hand in hand, as you said.
Let me be more honest, man. I'm humbled by this opportunity. I'm grateful to be your friend, and I'm looking forward to serving your audience.
Well, thank you. We are moved by that. And I want to just get your sense of two numbers. Now, we did say off camera there would be no math. There's no math required. 100% and 1%.
Right.
Walk us through that. Tell our audience a little bit about, how you connect those numbers, 100% and 1%, what it means to you and how we got to where we are today. I know we only have 3 or 4 days for this podcast, but try to fit it into that amount of time.
I'll even fit it in sooner than that, and that will give you time to follow up with additional questions. But where do those numbers come from? I'm sure many of your audience members are thinking, when I was 9, I was burned, here's the first number, on 100% of my body. It happened in my parents' garage. It was an accidental explosion, trapped me in the garage. Eventually, through a series of events, I make my way through the flames back into the house. One of my brothers saves my life. My sisters jump into action. They heroically guide me out of the smoke and out into the front yard. A brother goes back into the house, calls 911. They eventually show up. They race me off to the hospital. And once I get there, that's when they diagnose this little 9-year-old boy with burns to 100% of his body, 87% third degree. So that's the first number. The second number, 1. When my mother was visiting with the doctor, she asked him, after hearing about some of the burns and the degrees, and the O'Leary family knows nothing about any of this stuff. So my wonderful mom says, "Doc, what are you really saying? Are you saying John has a 50-50 chance of living? Is that what you're saying?" And he looks back and says, "That's not at all what I'm saying." He said, "Mrs. O'Leary, I'm no betting man, but if you forced me to put odds on your son's chances of survival, he would have less than 1% chance of surviving the first night. And Mrs. O'Leary, those odds will never go up." And what he's ultimately saying, Seth, is not he's got a 1% chance tonight and a 1% chance tomorrow. Hang on for the ride. He's being as compassionate as he can and saying, "Mrs. O'Leary, there's no chance your little guy is going to die. It's just time now."
And that's where we get the 100 and the 1. The amount of support, right? We've said on this podcast, greatness is in the agency of others. Those that say they've done it on their own are writing a myth, right? Writing an illusion.
Good. That is worth saying again.
Yeah.
Agency of others, man.
Yeah. I get chills because I feel like in my home, there are very proud moments as a parent, but I am very clear. And not because of the achievement of my children, because maybe something I got out of their way. I shut my mouth for once in my life, or I said just the right thing at the right time. Doesn't happen all the time. A broken clock is right twice a day. But I'm clear that when those moments do happen, it's all the invisible angels around me that have put their hands and their voice and their heart on my life. And I'm setting the table here for this question because you are known as such a positive person. When I inhabit your story and I dive deep into it, I feel like there's life being breathed into me or into the world. And was it always that way?
Hmm.
What was it innate, like pre-moment in the garage, right? You're out there, your parents were out. I recall you sharing, and just a day you were running around being 9. But did you see, do you have a natural propensity for that positivity and that ability to let people in and assist and help, or did that develop over time?
Yeah. So the answer to your question is yes. So you're asking me to circle like the Scantron A or B, and it's like, ah, C, man. It really
Right,
is yes.
right. As I'm asking it, I kind of thought maybe it's a little bit of both, or yes, yes, and yes.
Folks who study positive psychology know that you are born with an innate sense of optimism. And then the pessimists among us say, well, that's my excuse why I'm like this. But what they also say is an optimist can become pessimistic, and a pessimist can become far more optimistic. So I was born brilliantly optimistic, just joyful in life. And when you get burned on 100% of your body, when you spend 5.5 months in hospital, when you lose your fingers to amputation, when you go through life with scars from your neck to your toes, when you spend a couple of years in a wheelchair, and even today as a man, I'm still stared at sometimes when I walk into a room. So even
Sure.
today, there's still these punches that come your direction. It is easy to be beat down by life. And so the real question was, well, what allowed you to galvanize that will to live forward? Was that you? And the answer is far no, not even close. I had an incredible collection of people around me growing up and still do in my life, but maybe none greater than my dad.
Mm.
And a conversation that's not in a book and it's not in the film. So this is for your audience. There was a moment in time about a year after I got burned, and I'm about to go back to school, Seth, and I don't want to go, man. I wasn't a good student before I got burned. And, a year and a half away did not help things. So I don't want to go back to school. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm physically different. I'm going to be made fun of. I know. I'm less than everybody else. I know. I know all this. So I keep asking my dad that night, why me, dad? Why me? And my sweet father, who is my hero in life, shuts the bedroom door, comes back over to me, puts his hands on my legs, looks me in the eyes, and says, John, darn it, why not you? This terrible thing has happened. And if you want to be a victim to it for the rest of your life, have at it. No one will blame you, man. You've been through the worst. And then he said, or you can choose to become something even bigger and better because of it. He said, in every room you roll into, or maybe one day you walk into, people will look up in awe at what you've overcome and what you're doing in your life. And what I remember most was what he said next. He goes, John or Victor, your choice, not mine. My dad
Wow.
leaned forward. He kissed me. He stands up. He walks out of that room, and he left a 10-year-old boy with no fingers and scars from his neck to his toes in a wheelchair, wrestling with this thing. What way do I want to move forward? Victim or victor? And Seth, you and I know each other not only on podcasts and professionally, but like outside the lines, man. That's something you got to wrestle with periodically throughout your lives, and usually each day of your lives. How will I show up in this moment? In this moment. And I lost my dad on May 30th this year. He's my
Oof.
hero, man. He's my guy. I still wrestle with that.
Yeah.
But when I feel like surrendering or succumbing to the day or the headwind or the struggle, I'm taken back to being 10 years old in that little wheelchair in my parents' bedroom and my father's love and that inflection point. Which way will you go?
I got chills and I'm tearing up. I mean, I'll tell you, it's super powerful. I lost my dad very suddenly when I was 13. And, you know, words matter. You're a keynote speaker. I work with keynote speakers all day, every day. I've been doing it for over 20 years, and words matter. What a what a what a way to phrase it. What a natural, honest, dare I say, authentic, organic way to phrase it to a 10-year-old. And then, whether with strategy, conscious, unconscious, kind of seal you in that powerful moment, like hermetically seal that possibility. You say love. I might add, if I may, with respect, John, what I also heard was an undaunting stand for what's possible.
Amen. That's exactly right. And his equal partner in all this was my mom, and we could spend days talking about her. I mean, my father, for your listeners who may not know this, my dad had Parkinson's disease for the last 30 years of his life. And so this warrior of a man, guy on top of the world, man, building businesses and served in the army and life was good, had to learn how to accept help in every single little life activity for decades. And the person there for him was this warrior spirit named Mom, his wife. So equal to my respect for my dad is my love and admiration for my mom. And if I had to sum her up in one story of love and possibility, it would be probably the night I came home from the hospital. You know, man, it was a street fight for 5.5 months. They rebuilt the house while I'm in hospital. We come home, seated around this table as a family. The dog's over there, parents and 5 siblings. Best meal my mom has ever made is in front of me. The problem, listeners and viewers and Seth, is I can't use my fingers because I'm disabled. I struggle. My fingers have been amputated and I'll never amount to anything. That's what I know. And in through this knowledge comes a mother's truth. Like just capital T, man. My sister Amy grabs a fork. Amy was always like the most compassionate of my siblings. So she grabs a fork to feed me. And my mother says, Amy, drop the fork. If your brother's hungry, he's going to feed himself tonight. And even your, like, I remember making a louder grunt than that and looking at my mom and saying, like, what are you talking about? Like, look at me.
John,
And
this is a family show, okay?
ugh. I hope, you know what? I hope they're taking notes then. Because if this is a family show, maybe it's time to act the way that we should if we want our kids to become even better versions than ourselves.
Yeah.
Love is not about doing the easy thing. It's not about snow plowing the road to say, here, guys, it's going to be easy. Follow me. Sometimes love is about letting them fail forward and causing tears and then leaving the room, crying yourself, wiping those tears and coming back in. That's what's really taking place the night I came home. It was a 2.5-hour dinner. It was a homecoming experience, and my mother ruined it for all of us. And by the end of it, Seth, this little boy who had struggled so much already had figured out a way to wedge a fork between 2 broken hands, scoop up some potatoes, bring them now toward his mouth, eat, and the entire time think, I hate my mom. I hate my
Right.
mean mom.
Right.
And yet, man, if you and I were to meet, you and I will see each other soon. If we eat a meal together, you'll see a man today capable of not just traveling, but scooping up some potatoes with a fork and doing life going forward because of a mother's fierce love, because she
Yeah.
cast a vision of what was possible, not what was easy. There's a difference. And one more thing to add is in that room that night for 2.5 hours, she left occasionally to help with the dishes and came back in and help with homework and came back in, but she never left me by my side for long. This was a woman who gutturally felt the pain with me, but also knew that if she wants me to take the next step forward, we have to go through this.
I'm present to what you said is, the not snowplow the road, right? And whether it's parenting or leadership, and it could be leadership in community, it doesn't even necessarily have to be at work. It could be in the military service, wherever. Doing the right thing is often sometimes harder. And I just think back to your father. First of all, he didn't have a manual of operations. None of us do, let alone for a child, a son who is in your situation. It
Right.
was pure gut and pure instinct, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't hard for him as hard as it was for you
Mm.
to say that, to risk, to swing out, to stand by pure instinct, something greater than him that's guiding him to guide you. That, it could have gone a lot of different ways, John, um, but what a display of just true pure leadership.
Right.
Wow, and how your mother was so tied to that. I have this question circling around in my mind, and it might not be the best time to ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Now you travel, you speak. I can just, there's bags, packing, boarding passes, brushing your teeth, all these things we're just going to assert and assume that, these are done in the best way that you do them, and for a long time now. I taught for 6 years in high school, and my first year I was being evaluated. It was my first year. And I had I had a student in my class who had a lazy eye, but like a super like eye that was not right. It
Right.
wasn't covered, but it was, and I was really nervous. I was being observed by the vice principal, and we went over the evaluation. There were a few things that, were really great guidance, but he said, when you have a child with an eye, focus on the good eye. Right? Seems like because it's like, I'm not going to look at the other eye, but the other eye's there. Even like saying that you're doing it, right? So
Yeah.
as the person who doesn't have any fingers, had 100% of your body burned, you deal with people all the time. They don't know to shake your hand, to high five you, to elbow, to
Yeah.
kind of fist bump you. What do you say? What can you offer to our audience for that?
Well, the
Weird
first thing
question, but
I
weird
can only
question. But
only answer from my perspective. I think all of
right.
us need to be loved and led differently. When I was a kid, I grew up like in a church sometimes where you would shake hands with folks around you. So it's called a sign of peace. And I remember one time, you always start with your family. So I got 5 siblings. That kept me busy for like 25 seconds. Then 2 parents, then sometimes a grandparent or 2. But eventually,
All right, so you're clocking about a half a minute.
but dude, we got 30 more seconds to kill. So now I got to figure it out. Now it's the weird part where you meet strangers, and I shake a hand with a lady, then her son. Then I turn to the right, their dad, this bearded man, big eye, and I stick out my little hand. And this man stuck out his right hand, looks down at me, looks at my hand, pulls his hand back, and looks away. So I now turn
Mm,
around in church, and like I'm just different for the rest of the day. At the end of
yeah.
the day, my mom says to me, John, what's wrong? And I lie and I say everything's fine. But eventually she gets it out of me, as a parent sometimes can do. And she says to me, look at me. Next time you shake out your hand and someone starts to pull away, you reach out with your other hand, you pull them in, John. You don't let them get away. You're as good as anybody out there in life. Know that about you. So,
Mm,
what I would say to you now is, when I see you, Seth, when I speak with your organization next, when I meet your clients next, and if they stick out their hand, I'm going to grab them with my right hand and then pull them in with my left, and they're not going to get
mm,
away.
yeah.
When you shine light into the darkness fades always. And so I kill with love now, and I hold them in. And I think what these folks know when I meet them in the marketplace is I'm so comfortable in my own skin that it frees them to be comfortable with that as well. And when you do that consistently and sincerely and authentically, what begins to happen is they become comfortable in their own skin, which may not be a physical thing, but it might be a divorce. It might be a bankruptcy. It might be abuse they faced. It might be a bipolar diagnosis with one of their kids. It might be cancer in one side of the family and Parkinson's in another. When I'm done speaking, the most common thing I hear from folks is, John, it's nothing like your story, but and then they
Yeah.
roll. And then that
Yeah.
person leaves the line. The next one comes up and
Yeah.
they say, it's nothing like your story, but. And to put a bow on this, there's a spiritual teacher named Henry Nouwen who wrote that what is most personal and private is most universal and sacred. So the very thing you think makes you less than everybody else is the very thing actually that draws them into the conversation.
Right. It's almost like the preface is, I don't want to call it an discomfort or an insecurity, but it's like, actually, their story is like your story.
For
It's
sure.
just that it might not be 100% and 1%. It's some other characteristic, right? But the story, we're all like in that grappling and what we're, working through. It all has that same texture of growth and learning and darkness and light. And just it's so inspiring. John, I want to move it to another area here. The idea that, people come and are going to go see your movie. And if you draw the line back to the garage and the flames, your books, your speaking, you're learning how to eat, um, You know, you look back now, and I've heard you answer this question before, but for our viewers, I want the unique take on it. Would you do it any differently? Would you have it any other way? Would you not have the fire go on? Talk us through that.
So it's such an odd question in some regards because who in their right mind would not blow out a flame that led to them catastrophically being burned and enduring unimaginable pain? I mean, when I speak on right, and even the film, we don't really unpack the pain. Like, why do that to an audience? So I don't. We just whoop, come on right through it. But be practical for a moment. For those of you who have lately touched a pan on a stovetop, remember that, and then multiply by your whole body. So it is unfathomable. And even today, I deal with scars and brokenness. So it's the obvious answer is blow it out, dude. And you and I are on this podcast right now. And when it wraps, I get to go home to 4 little ones and a wife who loves me. And I have this compassionate heart for people who struggle. And I'm lit up in my spiritual journey. I have a career path that I'm wowed by. I can't believe it's mine. And there's this film coming out, not about like a lukewarm story of, hey, everything went okay. The end. Like, dude, it's horrible. It's painful.
Yeah,
And then this guy
it's
shows up
hard.
with that. But then he bounces forward and then he falls back down and then he becomes kind of addicted. But then someone else steps forward. And so this whole journey is wild and painful and perfect and redemptive and for others. So all the things I do today in my work and in my life aren't really for me. It's a way to keep people moving forward in their life. I received a message years ago when I was struggling. This is long before a couple books that I wrote, long before I started speaking, and long before a movie came out. I had no confidence. I'm 28. I had no love life, not married. I have no money and I'm hungover. And I'm in the back row of some church service and my arms are crossed. And this guy up at the front says, and for those of you who feel like you got no talent, listen to me. Your life is a precious, priceless gift. You got one job. Say yes to being used for good.
Mm.
And so I remember writing that down. I went to work the following day doing construction. Can you think of a less expected job for a dude with no fingers than carpentry? But that's what I'm doing at 28. So I'm doing that. My phone rings and a little girl says, Mr. John, will you speak at my school? And I would have never said yes, but I got a challenge the day before from the leader to say yes to being used for good. And that single yes led to a second group and a third group and a 100th group and a 2,700 group and 50 states and dozens of countries and millions of people and a full feature film, all because of that yes. And so one thing to put up, again, a little bow on this, if all of this was about, wow, John is just a warrior king, I would rock myself and any future audience to sleep. Why this story matters, why the books have mattered, and why the movie matters is because we celebrate the heroes who showed up for John. I
Mm.
when we cast Soul on Fire, it was my job to reach out to the actors. So like William H. Macy, I reached out to him and I said, Bill, you play a hero in the film. His name is Jack Buck. He's a Hall of Fame announcer. Will you serve? And he did. Then I reached out to John Corbett from Sex and the City. And I'm like, John, will you play my dad? He's my hero. And Stephanie Shostak from The Devil Wears Prada and Iron Man. Stephanie, will you play my mom? She's the hero of the whole story, Stephanie. And then we came around to Joel Courtney, who plays me. And I said, Joel, good news, bad news. Good news is that there's an awful lot of heroes in this film. The bad news is you're not one of them, man. Will you play that role of this kid who does everything wrong twice, but by the end of the film recognizes that even he can be used for good? So Joel said yes. And so it is a hero story, undoubtedly. But the hero that we celebrate is not the one you expect. It's not the one with the microphone. It's all the folks who showed up alongside of him, what they did, what they have to teach us, and how we can live our lives differently because of them.
I'm following along, and I'm just thinking of all the micro mini touch points of interaction anywhere at any time can have this massive impact. And we hear about the ripple effect, the metaphor of the butterfly flapping their wing or a pebble in the water and how it streaks out. And, you know, the human connection and all the nurses and the doctors and the people that helped you at reception getting into the whatever medical care you needed and treatments that you needed, the wheelchair people, every little touch, a smile, a caress, making sure you got to the top of the ramp instead of being left at the bottom of the ramp. And in the moment we can get caught up in like all the hurriedness and the to-do lists and we're not always so present to the impact that we have. Now, it's hard. It's hard to be that present all the time, every moment. But in a big picture, it seems to me like, you strike me as somebody who has a real sense of that. And it hasn't always been there. It's been part of the journey. But where I want to go with this is we curate speakers here for meetings, speakers like you for our clients. And the idea is that we do just what you said. You bring an idea of having agency over your life, of having possibility, of being positive, of knowing the impact that you have. It's okay to have a down moment, a dark moment. You need to lean on others because that's where greatness is, in the agency of others. Know who your heroes are, identify with them. And this might sound really corny and a little aspirational and kind of high-minded, but I really believe it. You go to these huge conferences, whether you're the speaker and you're being ushered into a labyrinth of where to go get your mic on, and the person putting the mic on, who maybe never read your book, has a huge show run to do, a huge operation to produce, and is part of a big, big event. And they're with you for 10 seconds, putting it on, 10 seconds, putting it off. But they are loving and kind. And that just is all there is, really. And we've said on this, the greatest app in the world is love. That's it, period, So I don't know. That was kind of my monologue.
Can I take your monologue and run for a minute?
Please, I'm handing off. Here we go.
So two things about that. I think for the most part, the guys doing that, the ladies doing that, they usually wear black shirt, black pants, black shoes. And I think they're not used to being fully seen by the person they're putting the mic on. I think many speakers, and you don't need to be a big time speaker to look down upon someone, in quotes, just putting the mic on you. I love those guys, man. I treat them with respect. I ask them about their family. I don't have any sound out there unless they do their job well backstage. So I'm profoundly grateful for them. So that's one piece, like love the one in front of you always. Secondly, when we speak, and I usually use the pronoun we, because I recognize I have you on my team and I have a team here in St. Louis that supports me and my family support, like everybody's pushing me forward. So I might be in the spotlight, but there's a lot of hands that made that happen. So when we speak, it always ends with my phone number going up on the screen. And the invitation to the client is, if you want to take the next step forward in your journey, and you'll allow us to send you Monday Morning Motivation with John O'Leary, just text me your email. It's how we do life together. You'll get my emails on Monday. And then here's the thing. Email works both ways. If you ever need a thing, you got my email, you got my number. The answer is yes. So like all the audience hears that. But quietly in the back of the house, the guy's wearing black here at 2. And my favorite text to get every single time is not from the executive and the CEO, the meeting planner. I'm thrilled. My favorite text is always, and it happens every single time, the AV team. And it usually begins not with their email address, but it usually begins with, I've never done anything like this before, but, and then they tell me why, and then they drop in their email. So then we get to take the hand of the AV team and walk forward with them. So man, it's amazing what happens when you treat people as if they matter. There's a picture to my left on the wall of Martin Luther King Jr. And there's a speech he delivered mid to late 60s in Philadelphia, where he talks about, if you are called to sweep streets so all the hosts of heaven and earth stop what they are doing to say, there lived a street sweeper who swept his streets well. When he was done with this, the entire auditorium rose to their feet. And before you think, oh, was it a room of custodial staff members? No, it was middle school. It was an impoverished, overlooked middle school in Philadelphia. And these kids were being reminded that whatever you do, do it well. Act like it matters, and it will.
Yeah.
And when you treat the guys in front of you as if they matter, their life matters, their work matters, you give them something they may not have given themselves that day, but it begins to change them. So here's our task then, not just in the back of the house, but to the Starbucks barista and to the Chick-fil-A order taker and to everybody you bump into as you roll through life, treat them as if they have royal blood coursing through their veins. It will change your interaction profoundly, and it might change or save their life afterwards. I think it's that big of a deal.
It is, and I'll just come back to the beginning of this segment. You don't get mic'd up properly, and they're not, even if you weren't like as loving and generous of spirit as you naturally are with them. But let's assume, somebody's in another moment, they're going through something.
Yeah.
You don't get mic'd up. The AV doesn't get your stuff on the screen. That ability to invite in an appealing, attractive way to text me, email me, get on our newsletter doesn't happen. So it's like the interconnectedness of us all, all the way back to that first dinner that took 2.5 hours. It's like your mom was putting on the mic. It was a mindset mic, but it was all there. It's all part of that journey.
That's right.
Well, John, look, I could truly go on and on forever. I'm so excited to see the movie. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of this recording with you. I think we have more ground to cover. What a joy to hear your story firsthand. For our subscribers and our viewers, John, they come to the podcast for this type of conversation. So just thanks for being so generous of spirit with us. And thank you to everybody for listening. John's information is going to be in the show notes. You'll be able to check out some videos and understand a little bit more about his speaking. And, we'll just take it from here, John. Just thank you so much for all the things you've done and the difference you've made where it's not as obvious even to you, who's pretty aware, where you've made a difference and you haven't been thanked. So we here at the Keynote Curators thank you for those moments as well.
Well, and I'm going to say thank you right back. I'm honored to have this platform, in particular, the day before our film goes live. And I just want to let your listeners know and viewers, man, Hollywood's a democracy. And we've been voting for a very long time that we want more men in tights able to fly and cars that turn into robots and squirrels that hold guns and curse. And I'm going to encourage your audience, vote differently. Vote with your time over the next couple of weeks. Go to Soul on Fire. Watch a movie about heroes. Watch a movie about what happens when community steps forward and they love the one in front of them, how that changes every life involved. And if we vote like that, Hollywood will give us more of what we actually want. So I'm strongly encouraging, man, make it a date night, take your kids, go as a team, go to Soul on Fire, leave after laughing and crying and certain that there still are heroes in your call to become one of them.
We're going as a family. We'll be there.
Well, I'll bring the popcorn, man. You bring the Kleenex for the tears, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
You bet. That's a deal. Thank you so much, John, and thanks to our audience. We appreciate it so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Seth.